By the fall of 1998, after several months in Missouri's toughest federal prison, Jimmy Keene could have won a popularity contest. He charmed everyone, just as Beaumont knew he would. He even won over some convicts with his lending library of pornographic magazines. And he'd managed to placate the Chin and the mob faction by day while circling his prey, suspected serial killer Larry Hall, with one-on-one bull sessions at night.
We just talked about a lot of normal things, hung out, made him feel like I was wanting to be his friend.
But it wasn't fast enough for Keene, who feared someone might recognize him and blow his cover.
If you went by the FBI's technical terms, I was pretty much staying right on pace, but from my point of view of being in this place, it was starting to get very hard.
On the outside, the mission mastermind, Larry Beaumont, could only sit and wait for secondhand news on how this crazy scheme of his was going.
Now, were you pacing the floors waiting for updates during all this?
I don't know if I paced the floors, but I was eager to get updates. And I had information that he was starting to trust him. They were talking and that kind of thing.
But Beaumont had absolutely no idea that a breakthrough moment had arrived. It was a Saturday night. Keene and Hall were in the prison's TV room, watching America's Most Wanted again.
And here comes this big prisoner, and he's a big, muscular, buff guy. And he walked over to the TV and he turned the channel. And Hall looks at me and he goes, real quietly, he mumbles under his breath, he says, "Hey, that's not right, I was watching that." I thought, you know what, this is a prime opportunity for me.
Jimmy, a martial arts expert who'd continued working out in prison, was ready for this moment. He got up and changed the channel back.
He jumped up, and he's slobbering all over the place. "You turn that channel again, I'll rip your damn head off. You don't touch that TV, blah, blah, blah." And he's going on all crazy and stuff, and he turns the channel and he sits back down. And I just looked at him and I turned the channel again. He jumped up and he starts cussing at me, and then I finally threw a particular cuss word at him that I knew was gonna set him off, and as soon as I did, he took a wild haymaker swing at me, and I come up with an uppercut and nailed him, kicked him through 3 rows of chairs and jumped on him, and I beat him to a pulp.
Hall had a ringside view of Saturday night's main event. Afterwards, he staunchly defended Jimmy as the retaliator, not the instigator, when prison officials interviewed eyewitnesses about the TV room brawl.
You're Larry Hall's new hero.
Yeah, I became his new best friend and hero too.
Jimmy could sense that his heroics had brought him even closer to Hall, and now he was ready to make a bold move. In the prison library, Jimmy had figured out a strategy to draw Hall out on Tricia Reitler.
I noticed he was reading his hometown newspaper, and that was really important eventually for me to start cracking into his psyche.
Even though the goal was Tricia's body, Jimmy decided to ask first about something already public knowledge, Hall's conviction in the Jesse Roach case. Jimmy fibbed that his mother lived near Wabash and read about Jesse's case and other stories involving Hall.
She gets that newspaper from that hometown where you're from, and I said, and all the newspaper stories say that you've killed multiple women.
That was a big risk, though.
It all was a big risk. And I said, "Larry, I don't care what you're in here for, but be honest with me, that's all." I said, "Just tell me what happened, man." I said, "You know, I'm still gonna be your friend no matter what." And I said, "You know, I've had girls do me wrong in my life. I understand how girls can get under your skin and how they can be bothersome to you."
Jimmy said he pressed Hall about Jesse Roach. At last, Hall began to open up, recalling that September day in 1993.
He was driving down a backcountry road and he seen her walking her bicycle.
Hall then told Jimmy exactly how he abducted and killed Jesse.
You must have been revolted.
Oh God, Lester, it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, to have to sit there and pretend to be his friend, to listen to this kind of stuff and not just rip him apart. But I knew what the mission involved. I knew what was at stake for me. I knew what was at stake for the people's families, you know, that were still, you know, trying to find their daughters.
A major transformation was taking place. Jimmy was starting to care about more than just himself. And now he was determined to squeeze the most crucial confession out of Larry Hall. And not just for himself, but for the family of Tricia Reitler.
I started thinking, I don't know where this is still going to lead, how long this is going to take, but something's now happening.
Coming up, a disturbing discovery. Has Jimmy Keene solved the mystery of the missing girls?
I go, what are these things anyway? He says, they watch over the dead, Jimmy. He goes, they do.